The diplomatic quarters aboard the Celestial Harmony were designed for comfort, not combat. Yet Lieutenant Auric Dorn stood perfectly still as razor-sharp teeth closed around his hand, applying just enough pressure to draw a single bead of blood. Ruck, barely 6 months old by Kravian standards, had made his move during what the adults called a trust exercise. The young predator's crimson eyes gleamed with mischief and challenge, his spotted fur bristling with excitement. Around them, the delegation of Kravian elders tensed, their massive bodies coiling like springs ready to pounce and drag their foolish youngling away from the fragile human, but Auric didn't flinch. The Kravians were apex predators from a death world where everything larger than a fist could kill you. They stood nearly 3 meters tall, their bodies covered in thick fur that could deflect small arms fire, their jaws capable of crushing titanium alloys. When humanity had first made contact, the initial meetings had ended in bloodshed, misunderstandings born from drastically different evolutionary paths. Predators saw threats in every gesture. Prey species saw aggression in every movement. Humans were neither, and that confused everyone. Elder Vross, Rook's grandfather and the delegation leader, growled low in his throat. Lieutenant Dorn, forgive the cub's transgression. He forgets himself. I will remove— No, Auric said quietly, his voice steady despite the pain radiating up his arm. Let him finish what he started. The room fell silent. Even the environmental systems seemed to hold their breath. Rook's bite tightened slightly, testing. In Kravian culture, weakness was death. Prey pulled away. Rivals fought back. But this human did neither. He simply stood, his heartbeat steady, his breathing calm, his eyes locked on Rook's with neither fear nor anger, just patience. It wasn't the first time Auric had been bitten. Growing up on frontier colonies meant dealing with everything from territorial razor wolves to escaped genetic experiments. His older sister had taught him the first rule of dealing with predators. Panic makes you prey. You're not hurting me enough to matter. Rook? Auric said conversationally, as if they were discussing the weather. Your jaw strength at your age is approximately 400 pounds per square inch. Painful, yes, but my bones can handle 1/200 before fracturing. You'd need to commit fully to actually damage me. Rook's eyes widened slightly. The human knew his strength, had calculated it. But you won't commit, Auric continued, his tone almost gentle. Because this isn't an attack. You're testing me, seeing if I'll react like prey or fight back like a rival. The problem is, I'm neither. Around them, the Kravian elders watched with intense fascination. This human understood their ways better than most of their own diplomatic corps. He spoke their language not just with words, but with his very stance. Calm dominance without aggression, strength without violence. In my culture, Auric said, we have an animal called a wolf. Ancient predators like you. Thousands of years ago, my ancestors didn't run from them or kill them all. We sat by fires and waited. Eventually, the wolves came close. The brave ones, the curious ones. And we shared our food. We showed them that cooperation was more valuable than competition. Rook's grip loosened slightly, confusion flickering across his young face. Those wolves became dogs, Auric continued. Humanity's oldest friends. They hunt with us, protect our children, sleep in our homes. Not because we conquered them, but because we showed them a third option. Partnership. Auric slowly raised his free hand, moving with deliberate care, and placed it on top of Rook's head between his ears. The cub flinched but didn't release. Around them, several elders shifted nervously. Touching a Kravian's head was either a sign of deep trust or a declaration of dominance. I don't pull away because you're not my enemy, Auric said softly. I don't fight back because you're not my rival. I stand here because I want you to understand something that will serve you well as you grow. True strength isn't about how hard you can bite. It's about knowing when not to. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, Rook's jaw relaxed. His teeth withdrew from Auric's hand, leaving small puncture marks that welled with blood. The cub stared at the human, at this strange being who had refused to play by the only rules he knew. And then Rook did something that made every elder in the room gasp. He lowered his head, pressing his forehead against Auric's bloodied hand, the Kravian gesture of absolute respect, offered only to pack leaders and the most honored warriors. Elder Vross's throat rumbled with emotion. In 300 cycles, he said quietly, I have never seen a cub offer submission to an outsider. You have taught him in moments what we spend years drilling into our young, that wisdom and restraint are the highest forms of strength. Arik smiled slightly, pulling a medical adhesive from his pocket and sealing the puncture wounds with practiced efficiency. We humans learned that lesson the hard way, Elder Vross. We spent millennia fighting ourselves before we figured out that our real strength wasn't in our weapons or our aggression. It was in our ability to make friends with anyone, even predators who bite first and ask questions later. Ruck looked up at him, then carefully pressed his head against Arik's leg, the cub's version of a hug. The lieutenant rested his hand on the young predator's head, scratching behind his ears in a way that made Ruck's tail twitch with pleasure. Besides, Arik added with a grin, if humans ran away from everything that tried to bite us, we'd never have gotten off our homeworld. Our planet was filled with things trying to eat us. We just kept offering them snacks until they became our friends instead. Elder Vross's laugh echoed through the chamber, a sound like thunder. Your species is insane, Lieutenant. Yes, Arik agreed cheerfully as Ruck playfully pawed at his boot. But we're friendly about it. That's what makes us human. And in that moment, watching a human and a predator cub play without fear or violence, the Kravian delegation understood why humanity had succeeded where so many others had failed. They didn't conquer the galaxy through force. They simply refused to accept that any creature couldn't become a friend, if you just had the patience, the courage, and the willingness to let them bite you first.